Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today is Monday, January 23rd. And I know you picked up a preferred walk-on commit over the weekend. Had a lot of preferred walk-ons that visited this weekend, a lot of in-state guys trying to build that pipeline of keeping kids in-state and incentivizing them to not take full scholarships and go play at Oklahoma, which is pretty impressive. So we're going to be talking about that. Oklahoma made a recent offer to another Oklahoma in-state kid, and I believe it's a full ride scholarship. I'm not 100% sure and where he'll exactly play in Taylor Heim. So we're going to be talking about him. And then Oklahoma obviously hosted preferred walk-ons, and they hosted another player this weekend. So we're going to be talking about him. So before we enter, just want to say we appreciate it. We're over 5,600 subscribers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify. Everything's linked in the description below. And if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review. It helps us out a lot. So let's talk about the first of the preferred walk-ons is OU picked up a commit, Andrew Heining. I think that's how you say it, Heining. It's tough to say. Someone might be able to correct us because we've been debating on which way it is to be pronounced. But he's 6'6", 255 pounds from Glenpool, just right down the road, up the road from Norman, about 2 hours or so. He's a three-star kid. He was once a BYU commit. And then I think he even somewhat recently took a visit out to UCLA, or UCLA had some sort of interest in him. And OU was able to convince him that, hey, you need to stay home. We're going to give you a preferred walk-on, and we're going to give you enough of a incentive package that will offset, basically. I think what they're doing is they're trying to offset the cost if you got a full ride scholarship elsewhere, and encourage these kids to stay home. Brandon, what do you think about Andrew Heining? 6'6", 255. He's a little skinnier, but he's got the frame.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think with most of these kids that we're going to talk about, 4 of the 5, and then 3 of the 4 from Oklahoma, they're all big. I mean, you mentioned Heining being 6'6", 255. Another theme is they're multi-sport athletes. I think Heining played a little bit of basketball, and he played track. I think he stopped playing basketball in high school, but he ran track, or he didn't run track. He was discus and stuff too. So he's very athletic guy, good frame. It's exciting to see these kids from Oklahoma, because I think it means more to them to put on the Sooner jersey. It means something. I think Heining, you mentioned the BYU commit. I read an article from a BYU insider when he originally committed there. When we were doing some research on him here, he said he grew up a Cougar fan. So I don't know how we flipped him, but it shows that Chavez and Bates and that whole defensive side of the ball is doing pretty good, and it's not over till it's over. We've seen that theme all recruiting cycle with Peyton Bowen, with some of these other guys who, he was committed to BYU at one point, and we're able to keep him in state. I think it's a big win. Excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, the one thing about him is his frame seems pretty slender right now, so definitely going to be a dude that's going to likely get redshirted just so that he can spend more time with Schmitty. I know redshirting is not something that's probably very popular or players like to have happen to them, but in the position that he's in, especially with defensive ends, you've got guys that have more talent potentially and are already bigger than you coming into college. So coaches are going to want to get you as bulky as they can over the next year. He's going to get to eat like 10,000 calories a day. So lucky him. He gets to eat all the pancakes. And at this point, it's going to be like, what are they seeing out of him to give him even a spot as a preferred walk-on? And it seems like it's going to be a thing now with this coaching staff. We're going to see a lot of Oklahoma kids get preferred walk-on spots after early national signing day. Seems like they'd prefer to have all their guys in by December in an ideal world, and it did happen this year. So now they're focusing on in-state guys, giving him spots, guys that they see potential in. I just don't know, especially at the defensive end spot, when he would compete and where he fits in. With the talent that's there, the young talent that's there, and potentially the young talent coming in. Obviously, we don't know exactly who it's going to be, but the perspective of having, Williams Nwaneri, potentially David Stone in a perfect world, that's already 2 guys, and Nwaneri probably is a bit more hybrid, so he can play inside or outside. But David Stone is an inside guy. Like, there's going to be talent all over that line at some point during Andrew's career. when and where does he get to play? Is he going to be kind of an Alton Tarbor situation and where he came in, gave himself wanted to see if he could compete at the highest level of college football, and then he transfers next year to a place where he might get more playing time? I think it's a smart idea. If you're an 18-year-old, you might as well start at the highest level and then work your way down, because it's much easier to go, OU, Oklahoma State, big time program, and then enter the transfer portal and then find a school like a Texas State or, any other smaller program, maybe in a group of 5 where you might have a little bit less competition and your frame fits that ideal role. But we'll see what happens to him. It's always good to have these kids from in-state for the reason that Brandon said.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. I agree. And if you remember, whenever Bob Stoops was leading the program, he had an extremely strong preferred walk-on program and recruited guys heavily to bring in great quality, depth behind, to also elevate the quality in like the scout teams and things like that. And you obviously every so often will find a guy that will surprise you and beat out a 3, 4, or 5-star just because they ascend to that level. I mean, who would have ever thought that Kenneth Murray would have turned into what he was, and other players like Creed Humphrey. I mean, coming out of, I think he came out of Choctaw, if I remember right, Choctaw, Oklahoma, and he wasn't.
I thought Creed was Shawnee.
Maybe it's Shawnee. Yep, I couldn't remember. Yeah, Shawnee. But I mean, it's guys like that you never really thought would have started, because you had all these guys ahead of him with all these stars. And who's to say that? I'm not saying that Andrew will be that guy, but if you keep bringing in great depth and great quality, I mean, someone's bound to start playing, like Gavin Freeman. I mean, I'll sit here and say I didn't expect Gavin Freeman to play as much as he did. Not that he played a whole lot, but he contributed. So another guy that they ended up hosting this weekend was Drew Bat. He's a offensive lineman, 6'8", 250 pounds. Again, absolutely massive. I mean, 6'8", Turpin, Oklahoma. So from a small school, also played basketball. Hosted him for a preferred walk-on offer. I think he's got a few scholarship offers to smaller schools, but again, it's Oklahoma trying to convince him, say, hey, we can, whatever you're going to get dollar amount at this other place and scholarship value, we can somehow come up and match that, or sort of some sort of package for him. And can Oklahoma convince him? I'm not 100% sure, but the thing is, when you're from a small town like Turpin, Oklahoma comes knocking, it's hard to say no to them. Jose, what do you think?
So I actually slid into his DMs just because I wanted to hear from like his own perspective, like how his visit went. He said he loved it, said he felt right at home because he was a Sooner fan growing up. I think the preferred walk-on thing might be a hurdle that Oklahoma will have to deal with. He wanted to keep things, everything else about his recruitment pretty private, so I respected that. But he mentioned he loved OU. I really don't know how the rest of the schools I offered him, like if they're, because I know he has offers from Oklahoma State. I'm not sure if that is a walk-on or a scholarship spot. It didn't really mention that in his post when he got the offer. I'm gonna assume it's a scholarship spot, but he would be I think he would actually be pretty useful for the offensive line in the future of it because of how big he is. Probably has a pretty good wingspan to keep these boys off, especially the guys that are going to be coming at him a little bit faster. Can get his hands on them quicker, get a hold of them and control them a little bit easier. Again, he's going to be a guy that if he did come to Oklahoma, more than likely going to be redshirting for a year, or at least not seeing much playing time, so that he can eat all the pancakes he wants and be in the gym with Schmitty. I think he's about 255 right now, according to his Twitter profile. Definitely going to need to beef up at least another 15, 20 pounds to compete at the collegiate level. But again, his size and his length is going to be what I think would propel him to actually get some playing time at a tackle position.
So he's another big ass Oklahoma homegrown kid, which I love. I mean, that's the most exciting part about him. And I agree with you, Jose, that I think he needs to put on at least 20 pounds to be able to compete at a collegiate level, especially in the SEC, which is where, obviously where he's headed. Those defensive ends and D tackles and stuff from Georgia and Alabama, they're not small boys. So he's going to have to bulk up, get stronger, but he's got the coaches to do so. And I think with that frame, with the coaching he has, I think Bill Bedenbaugh is the best offensive line coach in the country. Jerry Schmidt is a top 5, if not the best, strength and conditioning coach in the country. He's a guy that's going to have the opportunity if he buys in, which obviously he will. I mean, you heard it from himself. He grew up a Sooner fan. This probably means a lot more to him. Like him and Caden Green come to mind. Like they wanted to be here. They're going to play real hard. I mean, they all are obviously, but I mean, he wants it. And then, but like kind of like Brum said with the defensive line, there's a lot of talent on this offensive line. So he's going to sit for a little bit. It's a great depth piece if nothing else, but you'd like to see a kid like that who grew up a Sooner fan from a small town of Turpin eventually get the chance, because he's going to give it everything he's got on the field on Saturdays.
And I think what's really cool about his whole situation is Turpin is an 8-man football program. So he plays 8-man football. I think that's pretty cool. You think of Leighton Vander Esch as the guy that, made it out of 8-man football, and that's the first name that comes to mind. But,
Zaven Collins, another Oklahoma kid, 1st-round pick. He played at something small. I can't even think of the name of the town, but I mean, there's 2 guys right there who were 1st-round picks in the NFL, come from 8-man football. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, Turpin is so small that according to Google, the population is 281 people in 2020. So, I mean, it's a small town school and then you've got a program like Oklahoma calling you out. I think it's pretty, and you're a lifelong fan. It would be hard for me to say no if I were in his shoes. Of course, honestly, doesn't matter what town I'm from. If Oklahoma was calling me, I was going to commit to him anyway, but there's no recruiting me.
If the town is 280 people, I'm going to go out on a limb. I've never been to Turpin, Oklahoma, but I feel like if we take a road trip down to Turpin, and we didn't even know him, we could probably spot him out. I feel like there's probably not very many 6'8" human beings walking around Turpin, Oklahoma, so he probably sticks out like a sore thumb. We'd be able to quickly identify him.
That's probably a safe bet there. Watch there be like a 7-footer.
Yeah, probably so. And Turpin's out in the panhandle of Oklahoma, so not a whole lot's going on out there. I bet you're right. I bet we can go out there. Another guy who plays some 8-man football that Oklahoma hosted for a visit this weekend is Stetson Page. He's from Alma High School, Velma Alma. So it's another small school, but according to Max Preps, he's 6'7", 322 pounds. Definitely he's a lot heavier and a lot bigger. So he's got some size to him. Oklahoma going down in these small towns and trying to get these kids to commit. What do you think about Stetson, Brandon? What have you seen?
So Stetson Page, another kid, again, probably going to venture to say probably sticks out in his hometown, playing 8-man ball, being 6'7", 322. So with him, he has the more immediate college-ready size and weight, I think. Being 322, 330 pounds, whatever, by the time he gets to campus at 6'7", playing tackle, he is college football frame ready. So at this point, it comes down to being able to beat out some very talented guys in that room, with Caden Green being there, Jake Taylor being there, Jake Sexton along the tackle spots. So he's going to be a guy who's going to have to he has all the tools, all the strengths. He's college ready. It's just going to come down to if he can beat out some very, very talented dudes. And I think he'll, at least for a couple years, sit and ride the bench, just because, I think Caden Green's going to be that guy. I think Jake Taylor's going to be that guy. But if he redshirts, buys in, takes his time, he's a guy that down the road, I think could be very impactful for OU.
With that heavier size, he might even be a candidate to get moved into a guard spot. He'd be a really, really big guard, but he would be size-wise pretty fitting there, or weight-wise pretty fitting there. Really, again, it depends on if he wants to come on as a preferred walk-on. I went through his page. He also has a few scholarships, full scholarships to go play elsewhere. Really will just depend on how much that plays a factor. I'm not sure if I really don't know if Oklahoma's going to be offering these guys equivalent NIL money to completely essentially make it a form of a scholarship, where they're not really having to pay out of pocket to go to school. Maybe they're definitely putting them in a position to get some assistance and be able to live if they did go to Oklahoma. But the financial side, tough to say with preferred walk-ons. Really just depends on the kid. And it's going to be, again, if that's an obstacle Oklahoma can get past, I think I agree with Brandon. He would be a guy that could be more impactful immediately, either on scout team year one. Who knows? He might even get some rotation in early games, and would just have to get redshirted and given some real opportunities during those first two, maybe first three games, depending on how those play out, right?
Yeah, and I mean, again, when you look at Drew Bat, you think, yeah, he's going to need some time in the weight room and probably eating 10,000 calories a day to get up there. But Stetson, you're right. Could come in and potentially at least run scout team and maybe even compete. So regardless if any of these kids end up, obviously one of them committed to Oklahoma that we talked about, but I like the fact that they are revamping this preferred walk-on program, because I always felt like with Bob Stoops, it was more of trying to find, the hidden, everyone in the rough and develop them and try to make them the best they could be. And I felt like with Lincoln Riley in the previous staff, it was, let's just get a few really, really, really good players, and those kids should be good enough to get us there. We don't need a ton of depth at the back end and the bottom of the roster. And I think to win national championships and win championships in general, you need a complete roster, whether it's full scholarship players or walk-ons, because you have to have kids that bring in some sort of quality of play. You can't have the back end, having me, Jose, and Brandon running scout team. It's not going to be pretty because they're going to make us look bad.
Hey, they might make y'all look bad.
Oh my gosh!
Don't put that evil on me. Don't put that evil on me.
They would put their hand out and just keep you at distance.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? We'll never know because I'll never play, but we'll never know.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll move on to a guy that actually got a full ride offer. Is Taylor Heims. So Taylor Heims from Bethany, Oklahoma. According to 247, he's 6'3". I saw another thing. He's 6'5". I believe he's actually 6'5", nearly 200 pounds. An extremely versatile kid from Bethany, Oklahoma. So another small town school. I saw on Twitter he posted his offer, and then I also started scrolling and I saw someone post a picture with Brent Venables at their basketball game. So I think Venables went to the basketball game doing detective work like Jose on Twitter, that I think Venables went to the basketball game, watched him, and then offered him after the fact. I believe that's what ended up happening. And looking at Heim's got full ride offers. He's got offers from Navy, Army, Air Force, Ohio, Missouri State, your place, Brandon, Louisiana Tech, Incarnate Ward, North Texas, and just received an offer from Tulsa as well. So, and he went on an official visit to Tulsa this weekend, according to his 247 page. So Oklahoma's got some competition. He's a guy that has options. And since Oklahoma ended up offering him, a full ride scholarship, they can compete apples for apples. And it's obviously the biggest brand that's going after him. And he's a guy that's played all over the place. Just reading off some of his stats, he's played quarterback for him, 68% completion percentage, over 2,300 yards, 26 passing touchdowns. He's played running back, over 1,400 yards and 16 touchdowns in his career. He's caught passes, 287 yards, 4 touchdowns. He plays on the defensive side, almost 80 total tackles and 8 picks. So the guy plays everywhere. And Brandon, I'm going to let you talk about him first because your comparison makes a lot of sense. And I know you're going to all agree with this.
Yeah, I was nervous that you were going to go to Jose first because he was technically due up because I let off last time and he was going to steal it from me. But yeah, guys, if you guys remember this whole recruitment cycle from last year, if you watch the show and stuff, this process with Heim reminds me so much of Eric McCarty. He's a guy, small town Oklahoma. McCarty, I think, came from McAllister. Heim is Bethany. But they both are just so versatile, so athletic, and they do it all. And anytime you put up numbers like Brum just mentioned, and granted it's not against the highest of high competition, you would like to see him do it at Bixby, at Union, at Jinx, at Broken Arrow. But it is what it is. You can't control where you live, where you're playing. So But when you dominate that highly against any competition, you're going to play well in anywhere in high school. And so it's hard not to give that kid a full ride. You mentioned Oklahoma as the biggest brand, and that's easy. He's a kid I'd love to see Oklahoma land because, like Eric McCarty, I think down the road they're going to be pretty big time players for OU. Eric McCarty, he's already here. I think he'll be huge for us down the road, and I think Taylor Heim could be the same thing. Just a guy that can do it all. Hard not to want that on your team.
I'm gonna call him Heim because he is him at his high school. It really is just quite impressive how much he was able to do for his program in the time that he was there, playing at the varsity level, playing everywhere, not just skill positions, playing quarterback. I believe he played a little bit of defense, like a little bit on the defensive line, not a lot. Played a little bit of linebacker, played some safety. So he's really just an all-out football player. Definitely, that seems like the hottest topic about him is where does he fit at Oklahoma? Is he going to be on the offensive side? Is he going to be playing defense? Is he going to play linebacker? Is he going to play safety, corner? Because he is that kind of athlete where you can kind of put him anywhere, develop him a little bit on his skill set so that he can refine in that one spot, and he could be an effective player. I would lean probably towards linebacker. I know tight end is a spot. I think I saw that Coach Finley's the one that initially made contact and offered. But it really wouldn't surprise me if he gets moved to the linebacker position because it's one that is still as talented as it's getting, and depth isn't as big of an issue as it was last year. It can still be a problem depending on how quickly these guys pick up the playbook. Where they fit in the position, like, are they going to be the Mike, the Will, or any of them going to compete more for the Cheetah spot? Like, it'll kind of just depend on how that plays out, but it's really going to be, I feel like the real answer is just wherever he can get playing time. And one of you guys tweeted that out through the Two Plane Sports account. It really just depends on where he's going to get to be on the field as fast as possible. Probably going to be a guy that won't really need to redshirt. They'll definitely want to try to get some mass on him here over the summer if he were to commit. I know he's picked up a couple crystal balls for Oklahoma, and some people don't trust crystal balls anymore. So really just take that as you may. But if he does end up being a Sooner, probably they're going to try to definitely get some weight on him over the next however many months he'll be at OU before the fall starts. But he might be a guy that won't redshirt and just takes a lot of special team snaps so they can get him out on the field with the athleticism that he has.
Yeah, I definitely think. Oh, go ahead.
My bad. I was going to say, how cool would it be like to be a high school kid, finish a basketball game, and then have Brent Venables there, and almost immediately afterwards, if that's the way it went down, offer him, which I'm pretty sure, as you mentioned, bro, that's probably how it went down. And that's similar to if you guys heard the Barry Switzer and Boz story, how he just went to his high school and kind of offered on the spot. It's pretty cool, and that worked out for Oklahoma. Hopefully this is a similar situation.
And for him to go out to a school like Bethany, that he walked in and everyone's like, that's Brent Venables. What is he doing at this basketball game? All this stuff. Like, why is he watching a basketball game? And honestly, people probably put two and two together. Like, who's the best athlete on this team that plays both sports? Oh, well, it's Taylor. I mean, and then that kind of is probably where the light bulb went off. But it's pretty cool that a small town, when a guy like Venables walks in, I mean, I'm honestly at any school, but especially at a smaller school.
Yeah, it gets less special. Like if you went to like a Denton guy or Denton Ryan, where you have guys from a lot of big time programs, head coaches from a ton of big time programs coming in every day or every week.
Yeah, it's like a revolving door in that aspect because you literally don't know which coach is here to see who because you've got that many Division I talents on basketball and football teams. So I like Oklahoma's chances in this. I mean, at the end of the day, Oklahoma and all these guys' recruitments, if everything was equal, like what Heims or Heim's recruitment is, I like Oklahoma's chances. I mean, it's going to be tough to tell Oklahoma no. So, but I'm sure there's going to be more preferred walk-ons, and we'll have to keep watching closely. And people should be following us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with everything. Got a plug here and
TikTok.
Subscribe to the channel. Oh yeah, and TikTok.
Because you guys don't plug TikTok when I'm not here, so I'm going to plug TikTok.
I forget about TikTok at times. I don't know. So Oklahoma also hosted another player this weekend, and for a transfer player is Nick Jackson from Virginia. He's a linebacker from Virginia, 6'1", 234 pounds, 235 pounds, originally from Atlanta, Georgia. He is a 4-year player from Virginia, so he's got 1 year of eligibility, and it's because of his COVID year. In total, he's got 352 total tackles, 10.5 sacks, a forced fumble in his career. Entered the transfer portal like about a month ago or so, and he hasn't obviously announced where he's going. Oklahoma seemed to have hosted him and have interest in him. I mean, at the end of the day, another linebacker to add to this group is needed, and someone that has some experience and can provide great depth and compete and basically overhaul this entire linebacker room. I'm not sure where Nick Jackson ends up, but Jose, what do you think?
I would be very, very surprised if you were to be wearing crimson and cream next season. Being a guy that contributed to Virginia's defense during his time there, coming into Oklahoma where you have Dasan McCullough, who by all accounts of anyone that's ever really watched him play, people that are close to the program, I mentioned that he's a guy that's likely going to be impactful as soon as he gets on the field next fall. Probably not going to overtake him. Danny Stutzman, an incumbent linebacker starter, probably not going to overtake him. And you got a guy like Jaron Jackson. You've got Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, guys that have been with the program now for a year. And the biggest thing with the staff, especially with the defense, has been, can you learn the playbook fast enough? These guys already know a bulk of the playbook, or at least should know most, if not all, of the playbook. He would be at a big disadvantage. Probably wouldn't be transferring in until later on in the semester if he can take 8-week courses, depending on how his grades are and how classes transfer. If he were to come in this semester, and it's more likely that it would happen in the summer, so he'd be behind in learning the playbook. So it really wouldn't make sense for him to come to Oklahoma. Would it be awesome? Yes, because I agree, more depth, more talent never hurts, especially with linebackers and how taxing it can be and how difficult this defense can be on that position. I think there's going to be other schools, other big programs that are going to be just as likely to want him, if not want him more, because he was impactful during his time at Virginia.
Couldn't agree more with what Jose said. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say. As a fan of the Oklahoma Sooners, you want to see him come because he's a talented guy. Bram, you mentioned his numbers, about 10 sacks, a bunch of tackles throughout his career. But for him, a guy who played significant snaps at Virginia for 4 seasons, an impactful player there, to enter the portal, to come to Oklahoma, to not be guaranteed a starting spot, not be guaranteed to really even see the field. It's tough to make that decision, I think. I mean, it would have to be one hell of a pitch from Ted Roof and the boys. Obviously, as an Oklahoma fan, again, we'd love to see him come, add that depth, because he's a talented player, but I just don't think it makes much sense for him.
Yeah, and it looks like basically he's visited Auburn. It seems like Auburn is throwing their hat in this race. I mean, Auburn's pretty much on anyone.
Auburn sucks. Go there. Like he'll start at Auburn. Like probably start at Auburn. Go to Florida. Florida sucks. I know you guys did your Jalen Rashada video. I haven't seen that one yet because I don't care too much. I watch all your guys' Oklahoma videos and I'm not there. Jalen Rashada doesn't do it much for me, but Florida sucks. You guys don't like to say that. Auburn sucks. Go to Auburn. Go somewhere else. I mean, we'd love to see him come to Oklahoma, but it makes no sense. Auburn sucks. Go to Auburn.
You know what's really funny? Too. Oh yeah, they do. But you know what's really funny is one of our viewers commented on it and said Florida sucks in quotations and said Brandon or something like that. And basically,
are you serious?
Said, yeah.
I gotta go look at that. That's hilarious.
Yes, he called you Space Force Cadet Brandon.
Hey, I'll
because
take
you're
it.
in the Space Force.
That is hilarious, though. I do like to say Florida sucks.
Yeah, so I mean, if you've been here long enough, you obviously know that's Brandon's go-to. Them in Miami, and not having their own football stadium. That's a good one. So anyway, I don't know. I mean, at this point, it feels like Oklahoma's just kind of like that would be a cherry on top. But I agree. If I were him, it's just like where Victor Kern, the offensive lineman from Washington, who ended up announcing his transfer to what, Ole Miss was that? Did he go to Ole Miss?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was trying to remember who that was because it's like the same thing we talked about last week when I was on. It was be cool to get him, but it wouldn't make sense, and it's the same situation.
Yeah, so I don't know, but crazier things have happened, and he might just feel like he can, bet on himself, like we were saying about Victor Kern because of Walter Rouse coming in. So you never know, but that's all I've got as far as Oklahoma stuff. Do you guys have any final thoughts, or you want to? I mean, we could talk a little basketball. I mean, basketball's, but it's all heartbreak there. I mean, at the end of the
Watch
day,
the basketball team on Tuesday. Get prepared for another heartbreak. That team frustrates the hell out of me. I heart them, but they love to lose close bouts. It's the most frustrating thing on the planet.
It's the same story every game. They usually get a pretty decent lead somewhere around halftime, or at least in the game, and then they just forget how to play basketball the last 5 minutes, and doesn't go their way. I mean, I would love for this thing to turn around. I don't know what it is. The games I have watched in their entirety, it seems like they just get tired and just can't get their legs under them on shots. But Jesus, it's like the same thing every time. Something's got, like, Porter's got to figure something out. It maybe change the rotation so that these guys aren't the key guys aren't just absolutely done by the time the 5 minute mark in the second half comes up. But it's unacceptable, really. I don't know what it is. It seems like Tanner also shrinks in some games which is surprising because last year it seems like he carried the team.
Yeah, it's like the same thing. It's like a movie. You know what's coming. It's like, oh, okay, well, we're about 5 to 10 minutes left in the game, and we know where this game's going to end up, and it's just down the toilet. I mean, I just
it's the romantic comedy effect, you know. You know how every romantic comedy is going to go. The guy is going to find the girl. They're going to hate each other. They're going to eventually fall in love. But there's always that one rom-com where they don't fall in love. And those are the games that Oklahoma wins, where they don't fall in love.
Great analysis and great analogy. So
you won't find that anywhere else.
No,
sports, baby.
Coward would never think of that shit.
Coward would never. True. That guy sucks.
That's true. So, all right. So, Brandon, since you are the individual challenge guy, what is the challenge?
Yeah, so this one kind of came to me as we were going. Pretty much all the individual challenges come to me as we go because I never come prepared for this shit. But we talked about a bunch of Oklahoma towns, specifically the smaller towns. So we've got a decent little following here on YouTube and stuff, and for people who watch us. So if you are from small town Oklahoma, identify your town, and let's see if we can find the best small town in Oklahoma. And let's just have a debate here. I don't even know the smallest town in Oklahoma I've been to. Wagner or something. I've been to Wagner.
You got it. I don't even think that's that small.
Well, I don't know what else I've been to.
You've got to have been to an even smaller. I mean, Inola is probably smaller than Wagner, I would think.
Mm-hmm. I've been to Inola. I don't know. I've not been to small town Oklahoma much. I've not been to like the Panhandle region. Or
the Panhandle,
anywhere like that. So
the Panhandle is extremely small.
What's the smallest town you guys have been to in Oklahoma?
Well, I guess the question becomes: do you just drive through it, or do you actually stop? Is that what you're considering? Is it actually stopping?
What have you driven through that small town Oklahoma?
I don't know. I went out to Woodward once. Whatever the smallest things on the way there. I mean, it's hard to remember which one's the smallest.
Texola, I don't know. Sayre, Elk City, Foss.
I've been to Elk City, I think.
I just drive to Texola every time I have to go back to Oklahoma.
Texola, Hoses been to Texola. There it is.
Yeah.
So right small town Okies unite in our comment section. Where are you from? And then tell us why your town is better than someone else's small town.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I'm interested to see because obviously most of our following and watchers are from the state of Oklahoma, so I'm sure there's bound to be some people are from there.
I also debate doing your favorite rom-com because Hose mentioned rom-coms and had a great rom-com analysis. But I want to say we've done that one before on Two Plane Sports. We've done a favorite rom-com.
We have. So made it this far. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And our Twitter and Instagram are growing like crazy. So you guys should definitely go over there and follow that.
TikTok isn't yet, but it's going to.
TikTok will explode. Trust us. So might as well get in there and follow us on there as before it explodes. So again, we'll catch you guys Wednesday.